my presentation here. All right, and I hope that all of you are able to see it. Yeah. Okay, thank you. And of course, now we started with our presentation, which is called Co-working and Creative Industries Practice in Company Town, Industrial Culture and New Working Spaces in the Periphery. As I previously noted, so our city of Zlín is located on the periphery of the Czech Republic on the eastern part. It's roughly about 300 kilometers far from Prague, which is the capital of the Czech Republic. Yeah. And after that, I will introduce you why we discussed about company town, because it's a very specific city in the Czech Republic. You can call it as an American city in the Central Europe. Yeah. So in this way, we try to provide you with some theoretical background and of course some intro to the industrial culture and creative industries here, which after that they have impact on co-working centers. And it will be my section, and the second part will be presented by Petr Dubovsky, who will be discussed about specific issues in relation to the creative cluster development, as well as co-working centers in our city, how they were affected by conditions which have been developed previously in the 30s of the 20th century. So first question is who is speaking here, who I am. So much more I'm Pavel Bednar, and of course in this way, so I provide you to do introduction to this, to this section. So in this way, so I'm the head of Department of Regional Development and Public Administration and Law and Faculty of Economics in Tomáš Bata University in Zlín. And what we story about? So question is once more, how industrial culture is a specific concept which is perfectly fit to the Central European conditions, as well as, for example, Italian ones or British, as well as somehow is connected to the United States and Canada as well. So how is industrial culture can affect in creative industries, and after that co-workers or co-working centers development in such a specific company town. So outline our first part of our presentations will be what is about industrial culture concept. And the next question is how industrial culture could be connected with creative industries. And of course, after that, we transfer to the specific issues in terms of our city. The first is about Bata Shoe Company. Probably most of you probably have already seen somewhere, especially because we have colleagues from China as well, for example, maybe some Singapore or something like that. So after that, Bata Shoe Company is really present in developing world, of course, India predominantly now, or other countries like this. And of course, maybe for you, for some of you, it would be surprising that Bata Shoe Company was established in Zlín. For example, is a really medium-sized city in the former Czechoslovakia and now Czech Republic. So the first issue will be how Bata developed Zlín. So our city is a global creative center. And the next one will be around how about post-socialist transition. So how we deal with post-socialist transition in our city that previously really tourism was present, and now tourism discussing how about dealing with post-industrial transformation to the post-forest city, and of course to making creative our city again. The next question is we'll be discussing theoretical background roughly. So what is about industrial culture? Probably most of you have already discussed the issue about urban redevelopment or something like that, brownfields, and some similar cases in your cities, which is very common. Yeah, so we will discuss about urban structure, about urban forms. Yeah, but the question is what is behind that? So just only those buildings? Probably not. So we have something much more. And the question is how we would like to discuss, how we would like to call this issue. So after that, so our colleagues from Austria, which is neighboring country of the Czech Republic, discussed and developed such issue or such concept, which is called industrial culture. So industrial culture is not about how to say bricks or some some other industrial, some urban structures, but it's about a mind. So what about our tacit knowledge from the history? What is about our heritage in terms of my mind? So which were inherited from previously developed industrial structures. For example, but because we need to know that, of course, all industrial towns or in all industrial areas were built on some skills or as well as knowledge habits which are very specific in this for each particular location or region. And after that, we need to discuss how these tacit knowledge, inherited tacit knowledge, can affect our today conditions. So after that, we're discussing the concept of industrial culture, which is very, very specific for each industrial region. So generally said, so we need to know, or we like to know how, for example, these former knowledge and skills could be developed further, and of course to keep former traditions, and of course in this way foster, in our case, creative industries. So very, very briefly, what about Thomas Bata? So Thomas Bata founded a small company during the last decade of the 19th century. But however, surprisingly, as we need to consider that Chiara now is in the United States, and of course Thomas Bata did the same. So he traveled to Detroit, the largest city, for example, one of the largest cities in the Midwest of the United States of America, and of course he tried to recognize how about Ford, or I mean, you need to know the Fordism, how that Ford produce his cars, yeah, because we know it that Detroit is usually considered as a motor town, so motor town, so it's very, very famous for production of cars. So in this way, he copied almost everything. Yeah, he tried to learn everything from Ford company, and after that he copied almost everything, not only the company, but as well as the system, and of course urban planning to our city of Zlín. So after that, he was one of the first, how to say, Americans in this way in the former Czechoslovakia. So before the World War II, which developed such system, the Czech Republic. So after that, Jan Antonio Bata was a successor. So he provided Bata shoe companies in relations to the global presence in the world. Yeah. So after that, he developed not only some other features of the production system, but as well as the export model towns. Yeah. So after that, we copied back American city to the United States and Canada as well. So after this, it's really funny in this way, ridiculous, that Thomas Bata copied almost everything from Detroit to the Czech Republic, or former Czechoslovakia in this way. And after that, he transferred all his knowledge to the United States and Canada back. Yeah, so it's a great example how diffusion can be implemented. So after that, of course, due to the Second World War, so Bata company, but Thomas Bata and Antonio Bata was expelled to Brazil. Yeah, of course, and Bata company was nationalized by the Communist Party in the Czech Republic. Yeah, and of course, Communist Party decided that he was a entrepreneur, so very a figure of the capitalist system. So after that, industrial culture to be condemned, to be diminished and forgot forever in terms of our city. And now the question is, what about how we can connect creative industries and industrial culture? If we're discussing shoe, shoes. So after that, every shoes need to have some design. So this is the first attribute of industrial culture, and of course they link to the creative industries. And of course, if you have some product, you need to deal with some promotion. So after that, you need to deal with marketing. And of course, if you need to provide some marketing activities to your customers, so after that, Bacha used multimedia, and of course, as a way of advertisement of his shoes. So after that, as you see on the left, so Thomas Bacha developed his private film studios. So after that, we can call it as a Czechoslovak or Czech Hollywood in the Czech in our country. Yeah. So and of course, the first intention was just to discuss about deal with advertising of his shoes. And after that, of course, these production which were much more developed to do production of movies, but specifically not only advertisement, but as well for the open public. And on the right, you see that imagine during the Second World War, they have a specific feature. So it was a promotion of other movies in the city. And of course, on the right, you can see from the typical examples of company towns. So you see that Thomas Bacha almost copied former Detroit. And if you compare the city together with Detroit, I mean, during the 30s, not now. So after that, these cities were almost similar. So after that, very specific constructivist architecture together with providing housing for his workers. So after that, what about after socialism? Because of course, as I already mentioned, under socialism, of course, there was some production of movies. Okay, very massive production of shoes in terms of their export to the Soviet Union. However, problem was that, of course, if you produced shoes for the Soviet Union, nobody push you to innovations. Yeah. So after that, these were very obsolete, obsolete production. So question is, what about so-called Velvet Revolution in 1989? So when the communists, we accept again market economy as well as democracy. So in this way, after the diminishing of the Communist Party from the leadership of the Czechoslovakia. So question is, what about our shoe production? Because of course this shoe production almost stopped due to the dissolution of the Soviet Union. So after that, the knowledge, but on the other hand, knowledge still was there. So after that, new companies were developed, very specific and very famous in the Czech Republic, such as Teskoma or MMCT. So you see, for example, specialization. So after that, you see that, for example, there was some spin-off effect of former shoe production. Yeah. However, the most important issue was not only establishing international or some design companies, but the most important issue was about establishing of tertiary education in supporting designs activities, multimedia and marketing communications. So finally, at our university, faculty of multimedia communication was established. Yeah. And the next step to how to develop creative industries further, and of course for supporting co-workers in our city. So it was my honor to be participant in the Kreaklast Zlín Audiovisual Cluster project, which was the specific project between the Czech Republic and Slovakia, which was funded from the European Union. And of course, this was the first initiative in the Czech Republic how to develop something linked with creative industries here. So after that, Kreaklast, this project was a driver of the change in our city, because after that we finally recognized, and of course especially politicians recognized, that creative industries are really important in terms of revival of our city towards creative industries and use creativity, and after that after that co-working centers. So after that you see, so the next step was an establishing of Creative Hill College, which is it's a high school in terms of multimedia design. So after that we supported development of our tertiary education in terms of design and multimedia education. And of course, the last step before Peter's speech was about mapping creative and culture industries in the Czech Republic. So after that, we were lucky that we have met with colleagues from Prague, from Institute of Arts in Prague, which is a national agency for supporting creative industries in the Czech Republic. And of course, they had a national project for mapping creative and culture industries here. So after that, because Zlín has a very specialty on that, because due to design and multimedia, it's very specific. So after that, they decided to make the first qualitative and quantitative mapping of culture and creative industries in the Czech Republic just in our city, because of previous inherited industrial culture. So after that, we evaluated our regional creative ecosystems, and after that prepared some together with Leah Gillardi from England, which is a consultant for creative industries from Noema company. So after that, we developed our platforms for discussing creative industries in our city, as well as we supported the city how to do it that. So from my side, is okay, and of course, thank you very much for your attention. If you have some questions to this part, please write that down to our remarks. And now I would like to change leadership of our presentation to Petr Dubovsky, which provide you with much more information in regards to creative cluster and as well as co-working centers in our city. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pavel, and thank you, Petr.
Okay. Hello there. So I'll try to share my screen as well. And here we go. So, and maybe I will switch my camera off. Okay. Now, here's my presentation on two case studies from Zlín. One is about the Zlín Creative Cluster. You'll learn more about it later on. And second, about the Upper, which is university-run co-working center here in Zlín. My name is Petr Dubovsky. I work as the executive manager of Zlín Creative Cluster and as a project manager at Faculty of Multimedia Communication of Tomáš Bati University in Zlín. What I'm going to teach you, nothing. I'm not a teacher. I'm a practitioner. I can show you some stories. I can show you some examples. You have to teach those stuff yourself. What those stories are going to be about? Well, the first story is about Zlín Creative Cluster and how difficult or easy it can be to organize a living ecosystem of creative entities in such a small peripheral city or region. And the second story shows the school, the university co-working center. Now, as a creative cluster, we had to have a creative logo. So that was the example of the creativity of our people. Well, but back to the beginnings. Where did it came from? As Pavel said, Leah Gillardi made a great job with the mapping of cultural and creative industries in the Zlín region. And the results showed us that we have some strengths, which are architecture, based on the history, audiovisual art, there are still studios for filmmaking, marketing and advertising, sure, and design. All those things we want to foster and keep alive in the region after those changes of the regime. Well, the thing is that there are even bigger problems with the weakest aspect of the creative ecosystem in Zlin, because nobody communicated at that time. Nobody knows each other. So during the mapping, by simply talking about creative industries in our region, those people started to know each other, and the situation began to change. It started with the bottom-up initiative of those leaders and stakeholders that worked in the creative industries that recognized that they need to cooperate more. So they have formed the informal group, which started to plan support activities for local creative companies, for small entrepreneurs, and so on. Once they planned a lot of more and shaped their plans, they found out that without any legal form, they would never have a chance to fulfill those plans. So they've decided to create some legal form by advice of external experts. They choose to form a cluster as the ideal legal basis for this purpose. What is a cluster? I hope that you know it. This is one of the many definitions of how classical business clusters might look, how they usually work, how they cooperate and compete in the field of the business they share. I've tried to apply this definition to our creative ecosystem. So the definition says something like blah, 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 the group of companies that share local resources. In the field of creative industry, there are not any natural resources that can you share and use. Of course, there is the heritage of mental treasures of those things that Pavel talked about, the industrial culture that is still present in the city. Maybe if you look at the practical way of using those things, then in a creative processes, then of course you can find that the creative people here in the advertisement, in the design, use usually some traditional folk patterns or city industrial patterns. But those ideas, usually those creative people are not very willing to share with others. If you are a creative, the only capital you have is your idea. So it's not usual to share everything you have. But we have institutions that can share it, like galleries and museums, no matter if they are public or private, and they accept this role. So let's say that in some way, sharing local resources works for our cluster. Using similar technologies, this one is good. What do we have? Members of our cluster are city furniture architects, filmmakers, advertisers, theater director, gallerists, product designers, virtual reality creators, jewelers, fashion designers, film festival organizers, light design creators, video mapping masters, lawyers, city council representatives, high school headmaster, university deans, regional chamber of commerce people, and bunch of NGOs that works in a culture field. And it's hard to share some knowledge about similar technologies. If you look at those members, they don't have so many technological things that they can share the knowledge about the using. But if you divide these specializations to groups, and we use it as a tool to organize the life in the cluster, we use the working groups. So we have a working group that specializes on audiovisual arts, and there are about 10 members from the film companies. Then we have a working group on design, and designer stays in that group. So once they are divided into groups, they can share some of their knowledges. They can surely present what is the new kid on the block in the field of the technologies and so on. So yeah, we can say that using similar technologies is possible even in this bunch of all different members of our cluster. Forming linkages and alliances, no doubt. Networking, that's the very first and very basic thing that you can start to do, and everybody loves it. It's fun, it's crazy, it's you will say that people in such small town knows each other, but it's not true until you take them to one room and close the door. If you do it, then you'll see how the first attempts of meeting each other change and how they can share a lot of things. Because if you close to that room people from the architecture studio and local politics and people from the library, then happens something that is called cross-sectoral cooperation, and it brings innovation to life. Also, those different views on the topics brings new solutions, or can help to find new solutions if you allow other people to see your problem, even though they don't have your specializations. And knowing each other in person speeds up all the processes in the town. If you know who is on the other side of the phone link, if you've seen him before, then you can talk to them more effectively. Joint marketing. We have created new project of regional quality label created in Zlin. And this label stamps all the products that are created in Zlin, obviously, but they have also the quality which can be recognized and shown to other people, not only to the people abroad or in Czech Republic, but also to the local people, because what we have learned from previous time is that the term culture creative industry is not still known and understood by many of local people. So we are trying to show them the local products and say, hey, look, this very nice thing is made and created in Zlin. It's not made in, it's created in Zlin. Okay. Training. Cluster as an organization offers a range of soft and hard skill trainings for members and their employees for free. Thanks to some European projects that we are part of, we have this opportunity, and it's great. But none of the members has taken advantages of this offer yet. We are now studying why. Hopefully we'll learn it, and it will be changed soon. Yeah, that's not true. Research initiatives. As a cluster, we do those things like applied research in the field of service design. Nowadays, we have the project on measuring of economic impact of design-driven production. We are starting to develop a new project on advanced software technologies and artificial intelligence in the process of film animation, when the software learns itself how to animate those sections of the movie without the touch of the person of the animator. This is something new, and I hope this will have a great impact and fasters the process of animation, because film animation is a long time taking process, and this can be one of the help that our companies asked for. Progressive materials in fashion design. Yes, this is about those connections. We have the University of Tomáš Bati in Zlín. Technological faculty knows those materials that we are talking about. Fashion designers using the special materials for special purposes. This mixture works. Virtual reality and classic gallery and museum presentation, obvious. And well, if we are talking about the research, look at the logos and the new working spaces down there. Zlín Creative Cluster is also a member or part of this COAST project. Associations, we need to make associations, sure. So we are, as a cluster, member of the National Cluster Association of Czech Republic. We are member and Czech ambassador of the new European Media Initiative, which is specialized initiative with about 3,000 members all around Europe, and it's specialized on the new media, and also does a lot of lobbying on a European level. And we are a member with one position of vice president of the international network Creative Ring, which is again network of networks, basically. Okay, lobbying. Lobbying is a must for us. We are the very first creative cluster in the Czech Republic. And all other clusters in Czech Republic have their technical fields. There is an automotive cluster, nanotechnology cluster, chemical cluster, and many others. And they deal with the Ministry of Trade and Industry. And Ministry of Trade and Industry understands clusters mostly in that specific point of view, like clusters of the heavy industrial companies. Being cluster with such a specialization on creative industries is not very well understood by the Ministry of Trade and Industry. So we had to do the lobbying. We have started it with the city. We are living in a city, so city is a member of the cluster. Mayor is a member of the executive board of the cluster, which is good. On the other hand, its role is more formal than active. So City of Zlín is happy to have a cluster here, but that's all. Zlín regional government, it took a while, but we have support from them, even the financial support, which is great. They have learned them about the importance of creative industries, and we have one deputy of Zlín region government that understood completely the topic. Unfortunately, this year we have the autumn elections here, and that one is not candidating anymore. So we will see how the situation will change after the votes, but I hope that they understood it and put it also to the strategies so that the Zlín region is supporting creative industry, no matter if there is or not this one deputy. Ministry of Culture. Ministry of Culture, of course, it has a strong voice in the culture and creative industries. We are a member of the group that cooperates and prepares the national strategy for the support of development of the culture and creative industries. By working on that strategy, of course, we create also those alliances with other creative ecosystems and with the ministerial officials. Ministry of Industry and Trade, I've told you about the situation that they did not understood at the beginning how the creative industry could be organized by the cluster. So we had several meetings, invited Minister to Zlin, he visited us, and we somehow convinced them that the culture can be also an industry. And it seems that they start to understand it. And the thing is that from this year, the Zlin Creative Cluster, for the first time, received some support from the Ministry of Industry and Trade, and we have the chance to professionalize fully. European Parliament, yes, this is a coincidence, but the chairwoman of our cluster supervisory board is a member of European Parliament. So we have also voice there. We have some news coming from the Brussels to Zlin every month. So that's great. And United Nations, yeah, not yet, but we'll see. Sure, Zlin had the attempt to come and be recognized by United Nations as well. Okay, how about this competition? I hope you've read carefully the definition that there is a specific type of cooperation or competition in the clusters, that those members that are basically businesses working in the same field somehow compete in some aspects and somehow cooperate in other aspects. And sure, once it comes to the money, there is a competition, and it's sometimes very tough. And it's my work to be the mediator between those companies that on the daily basis fight for their businesses, for their jobs, and then on the other day they should stay and sit in the same room and be, let's say, friends and cooperate. But if they didn't want to cooperate, they wouldn't be the members of the cluster. So I think that the cooperation works as well. How long does it took? Pavel showed you that there is some history of mapping of creative culture industries in the Zlin region. After that attempts, in the informal groups, meetings, public discussions, experts panels, then there was the Zlin Audiovisual Cluster, first establishment in 2015, which was just a formal organization with 6 companies. They didn't do any practical work. They just needed the ID, so that they based the organization on the paper. But then it slept like for almost 2 years. In 2016, we have transformed that cluster because we needed that ID and some economic history to ask for the funding. So we have used their ID, transformed the Zlin Audiovisual Cluster to Zlin Creative Cluster. We took new members on board, 25, with a variety of all those types of members. There were no longer only audiovisual arts, but all those designers and other. And start our new, let's say, semi-professional organizational life. That was because of the lack of money. The only funds we have at that time were the membership fees, which were pretty low, so we can be reached easily by all the members. And we had no full-time employees at all. But anyway, we tried and we did a lot of activities during the time on a voluntary basis. So from now, from the 2020, we start our new era, and we had this funding from the Ministry of Trade. We start our professionalization. I hope that we will have by the end of the year 3 or 4 full-time employees, and we will grow also in the members. If you look at this, it took a lot of time from 0 to basically not much. We are starting after 8 years of existence of talks about some support to the creative industries in our region. On the other hand, during that time, a lot of things happened, a lot of things changed. So even that small city maybe will recognize what the creative industry can bring to it benefits. And that's basically end of the story 1. If you have any questions, please write it down in the notes and we will answer it after the second presentation. The second one is about April. It's a university-run co-working space. First of all, what is our university? Well, I told you that I work on the Faculty of Multimedia Communication of Tomáš Baťa University in Zlín. This faculty prepares professionals in the multiple fields of culture creative industries. We have shoe designers, of course, fashion designers, industrial designers, spatial designers, movie makers, photographs, glass designers, and I don't remember all the specialization we have. And the specialization of this faculty lies in this, that all of the students are forced to cooperate during their studies, and they work on the practical project that are real tasks from the business sphere. So they do their preparation for the job. So when they leave our school, they are ready to jump into the businesses. They work in teams without problems. They have creative, innovative solutions for everything, and they support the community life because they are used to be seen. They're used to change things, and it's great for the city. The bad news is that the most of the students leave Zlín for good after they finish their studies. Why is that? Well, we had to ask them. So we have asked those students that left the Zlín and did pretty well in their businesses or creative professions, why they have just left Zlín. So, well, the result is this short video. It's in Czech, but it has subtitles. So I hope it will work and that your connection on the internet is strong enough.
Tak ve Zlíně mě chybělo mě tam spousta věcí, ale asi jako nejdůležitější bych vyzvedl místo, kde by se potkávali lidi, všichni tvůrčí lidi, se kterými jsme tenkrát spolupracovali a měli jsme k tomu jenom velmi omezené podmínky. A tak by vlastně vzniklo místo, kde by jsme si dávali impulzy k tomu, aby jsme kvalitně tvořili, aby jsme dělali ještě lepší věci, než jsme tenkrát dělali, a myslím si, že pro mě takové místo by znamenalo mnohem rychlejší posun v tvorbě a mnohem rychlejší výtvarné dospívání.
Ve Zlíně mi nejvíc chyběli po škole kamarádi a spolužáci, protože všichni odjeli za prací někam mimo Zlín. A už v podstatě při škole, když jsme něco tvořili, tak jsme museli navštěvovat showroomy, obchody někde třeba v Praze nebo v Ostravě, protože ve Zlíně nebylo moc příležitostí, stejně tak odborné výstavy. A zábava. Ve Zlíně studenti pořádali různé zajímavé akce, ale jinak, že by byla možnost třeba navštívit nějaký koncert nebo zajít na nějaké přednášky, to vůbec ne.
Jsem nenašel
ve Zlíně uplatnění, tak mě nezbylo nic jiného, než hledat práci jinde, tak jsem odešel do Prahy. No a jako takový další důvod byl ten, že mě přišel Zlín dost jako kulturně mrtvý. Přišlo mi, že ve Zlíně nebylo prakticky kam zajít ani jako do nějakého hezčího prostředí nebo zajímavějšího, do nějaké i kavárny, kde by člověk se sešel s lidmi, kteří třeba mají podobný vkus nebo podobné zájmy. Takže město se mi zdálo takové kulturně jako nezajímavé a mrtvé, takže to byl taky jeden z důvodů, proč jsem odešel.
Tak právě tady té otázky jsem se bál, jako v podstatě mě tam nechybělo nic. Jo. Já jsem tam zažil svoje nejlepší léta, že jsme tam zažili hodně srandy, chodili jsme tam na všelijaký party, měl jsem tam hodně kamarádů. Ta škola pro mě byla prostě inspirací, mohl jsem si tam dělat, co jsem chtěl. Ale prostě byla to pro mě taková etapa, která někdy začala v tom mém životě a někdy prostě musela skončit. A musel jsem se posunout dál a vlastně jako další krok jsem viděl, že prostě se musím přesunout někam jinam. A to prostě mi ten Zlín nemohl poskytnout. Prostě proto já, co dělám, to je módní návrhářství. Tam není prostě klientela, nejsou tam vlastně ty kontakty. A teď jsme vlastně v Praze, tady začínám nějakou jako dráhu, kdy už vidím, že se to jakoby rýsuje. A v podstatě může se to dostat rychleji, nebo vidím tady jedinou šanci, že se to může stát v Praze, ne ve Zlíně.
Okay, so what we have heard. Zlín is a small town, 80,000 inhabitants on the border of Czech Republic. Well, yeah, we cannot do much about this. Although if we will not do anything about this, there will not be 80,000 inhabitants in 10 or 20 years, or there will be 50,000. Because if all the creative people or all young people moved out from the city, well, you can see the logic of this thing. The other mentioned thing was that there is a weak target group for the creative product. Yes, it might be a problem, but that video was taken like 6 years ago. I think that nowadays, and the current situation shows us, this is not true anymore, that the target group or your selling abilities via internet and e-shops are working perfectly from whenever you sit. So insufficient cultural life in Zlín. Yes, this is something that has to be changed, and Zlín Creative Cluster has one working group that works on it. This is we make a lot of exhibitions. We present young artists here, and because we do know that the creative people need some food for their brain, for their ideas, so they surely after they work at the computer or in their office all day, they need to charge their batteries and go out to see something inspirational. So this works together as well, and is going to change, or is changing slowly. And the last mentioned thing was that there is no place for joint creation and meetings and coffee and this stuff. And so there were not any private subjects that were willing to launch such a place as a co-working or a city. The town hall has no suitable premises that can offer for such an initiative. So the university took a lead and they established a project to create their own co-working center for creative industries. How they did it? They did a study tour around the world, not all of the university, but 5 or 6 students. They've collected the best practices from creative centers around Europe, and they've visited something even in the United States. Prepared on those experiences, they prepared some kind of business model that could be run by the faculty. In the university, our main purpose is to teach, and this is something that yes, fits to our mission, but doesn't fit perfectly to our economies. So there had to be some rules how to work and how to run that center that fits to the university schemes. After the tour, we've hired some of those students that visited Europe as our workers. They start to be managers of the new place and opened in 2017. Well, it's just normal co-working that can be used for students and fresh graduates, primarily from Tomáš Bati University. That's the thing with the university, for starting their own businesses. It's a basis for entrepreneurship mainly in the field of creative industries, but it could be any other industries as well if they want to join the co-working and the incubation program. There's no problem. It provides informal environment producing creative community. That's the most of the thing that they asked for, to be together, to create things together, to stay in touch. And yes, it's all financed and supported by the Faculty of Multimedia Communication of Tomáš Bati University. What can you do there? Yes, you can lease or rent the atelier for a period of 1 or 2 years at maximum. Then use of the co-working space. It's a daily or monthly rent. There is a fully equipped meeting room, incubation programs with consultancy. There is a community background. It's getting to be known. Everybody in Zlín knows, not everybody, but a lot of people in Zlín knows about that place and why to go there, what to see there. And yes, the managers offers special meeting with top class specialists on the presentation workshop days. Of course, these programs leads to the connection between the young entrepreneurs and the experienced ones. And what are the results? Well, let's say that there should be a happy end in every story. So after 3 years of running space for young entrepreneurs, the upper helped to incubate and accelerate number of new businesses in Zlín. It's not hundreds of new businesses, but let's say tens. And for such small city, it's a great result. First generation of upper tenants that have to leave after 2 years of the living and working in their ateliers stayed in the town. And what is the best thing about it? They opened their own co-working center. It's like 6 companies that stayed together. They rented half of the house in the center of city. It's much more smaller in the size, but it works on the same basis, on the same principles as the university-run co-working center upper. So it's nice example of that they learned that this model can work and be helpful for them. Then finally, there are some commercial subjects that recognize potential of creative co-working spaces, even in such small town in peripheral area. And one of the private developers is now just digging the foundation for the new innovation center, Silo 2. And the best at the end is that one of those guys in the video moved back to Zlín and works for local animation studio. So, and that's great. Well, nowadays we don't say, don't leave them to go out, but just be prepared for their coming back. Because if they go out to Prague, or even better to United States, or even better to Japan, and they learn new things and they return to Zlín, that's the best thing that could happen to us. So that's the end of my story number 2. And if you have any questions, I'll look at it and hope I can answer.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was very, very inspiring. The videos worked perfectly. So it was, yes, there was no problem. I asked one question in the chat, but I don't know if maybe our participants in the summer school want to ask first something else. I was curious about, so you said that regarding story 1,
Yep.
you said that you are now expanding and you are trying to build up a team and employing people that are dedicated to the space. I was wondering what kind of competencies you're looking for in these people to hire, because it seems like there's a lot of like different activities to do and the different competencies. So I was trying to, I was curious to understand if like you have a specific profiles in mind, or you, what's the selection process and the focus?
Do you know the number, the movie Wolf from the Wall Street? So those are those people that we need. I mean the DiCaprio role, but I know that we will not get them. Even though we get some funding, it's not that great, so we can afford such a great leaders. But basically, yes, I'm looking for somebody who is a leader, who can generate new incomes to the cluster, who can generate services for all the members. Although I know that not all the members need some services, like a regional gallery of arts is a proud member of cluster because they want to be member of the cluster and they want to stay in touch, but they don't need any services from us. With those new people, and you nail it, because nowadays this is my biggest problem, to find them. So with those new people, I need to establish a professional team that will offer services not only to members, but to other creative industries in the region or even in Czech Republic, expert services. So then I need to look at this, at the experts in those fields. So what I try to do now is to steal employees from my members. The logic of this is that they know the field where the game is played. Because once, I mean it regionally and by the specialization, of course, as well. So they know the people, they know the topic, and they live and work in this region. So this is the perfect thing. And well, the bad situation helps me a little bit, because some of the businesses now are, you know, getting smaller because of the COVID and this stuff. So and they know that they have nice, good, professional people that deserve to work in the region and in the field. So this is the pool when I'm trying to find. Okay.
Great, fantastic. So if any of our participants aims at finding a position, they
Well,
they
that
can...
would be perfect. That would be the best. Yes.
So after taking this course, they would be like aware. Of course, they're not maybe from the region, not many of them, but I think that I mean the profile maybe could match your expectations.
Perfect.
There is one question from Emmanuel, more of a short. I'm almost concluding a study on the social spatial practices of the creative class in a peripheral small medium city in Atlantic Canada. It's a critical approach, but I found there are geographical, urbanistic, and cultural local contingencies that indeed reflects the obstacle and attract, retain talent. I'll be happy to share with you soon.
Perfect.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Manuel.
Okay, here's my address.
So the email is coming. The email contact if you want to talk more about this in private.
Yep. Or
Okay, thank you. Are there any other doubts, curiosities, interests? If not, maybe we can take a 5-minute break before the beginning of the new lecture by Tamas and Anita. So thank you very much, and I hope to see you. I mean, we'll see each other later, of course, in the afternoon.
Thank you.
Okay.
See you later.
Bye. See you in 5 minutes.